Stephen Hawking spent his life mapping the infinite expanse of the cosmos from the confines of a deteriorating physical form. But in 1959, when a 17-year-old Hawking arrived here at Oxford University, his brilliance was largely untapped. He found the curriculum ridiculously easy, and he was bored. Instead of studying, he cultivated a reputation for thrill-seeking. He joined the college rowing crew, taking on the role of coxswain and deliberately steering the boat on risky, daredevil courses. Over 3 years at Oxford, he logged roughly 1,000 hours of study time, averaging about an hour a day. When finals arrived, he gamed the system by answering only theoretical physics questions, avoiding any section that required rote memorization. This early intellect was vast, but lacked focus. He was coasting on raw potential, an easy trajectory that would be abruptly cut short by the first signs of physical collapse. By the time he moved to Cambridge for graduate school in the early 1960s, subtle but ominous physical changes were taking hold. He began tripping on stairs, dropping common items, and struggling to tie his shoes. At age 21, Hawking was diagnosed with an atypical, early-onset form of ALS. Doctors gave him 2 to 3 years to live. The prognosis sent him into a deep depression. He sat in his darkened rooms, listening to Wagner, convinced that any further effort toward his doctorate was pointless. That trajectory changed when he met Jane Wilde. Their relationship and subsequent engagement provided him with an emotional anchor and a definitive reason to keep going. Faced with a literal ticking clock, Hawking's mindset shifted. He returned to his research and threw himself obsessively into theoretical physics. As his physical body began an irreversible, rapid decline, his intellectual ambition underwent a massive expansion. In the 1960s, cosmology was split by a fierce debate. Physicists argued over whether the universe had a definitive beginning or if it had always existed in a steady, unchanging state. At the same time, mathematician Roger Penrose was developing equations proving that a dying, collapsing star eventually shrinks down to a point of zero volume. Hawking made a massive imaginative leap. He took Penrose's mathematics of collapsing stars, stripped away the standard assumptions of perfect symmetry, and ran the equations in reverse, applying them to the entire universe. This animation illustrates the mathematical conclusion of that work. Under general relativity, the universe must have originated from a singularity, a single, infinitely dense point where space and time begin. This insight gave the visibly deteriorating graduate student the confidence to stand up at a prestigious meeting and publicly challenge legendary astrophysicist Fred Hoyle. A man who had just been told he had only 2 years to live had used mathematics to prove that time itself had a beginning. Moving into the 1970s, Hawking was completely bound to a wheelchair. From that chair, he began running mental calculations, attempting to merge Einstein's general relativity with the rules of quantum mechanics. This led to an unexpected prediction. Black holes, he calculated, are not actually completely black. They emit a faint thermal glow, known as Hawking radiation. This radiation means black holes slowly leak energy. Over immense stretches of time, they lose mass, shrink, and evaporate into nothing. But if the black hole disappears entirely, leaving behind chaotic static, what happens to the physical information that fell inside? This created the information paradox, a brutal clash of fundamental laws. General relativity dictates the information is lost forever, while quantum mechanics demands it must be perfectly conserved. As his physical voice began to fail, his mind ignited a puzzle that left the foundations of relativity and quantum mechanics in direct, unresolved opposition. In 1985, a severe bout of pneumonia forced doctors to perform a life-saving tracheotomy. The procedure permanently removed his natural ability to speak, trapping him in silence. Facing the financial burden of round-the-clock medical care, Hawking decided to write a popular science book to fund his survival. A Brief History of Time achieved a staggering level of global success. It remained on bestseller lists for hundreds of weeks and elevated a theoretical physicist to the status of a pop culture icon. He communicated with the world using the Intel ACAT system, a predictive text program that he eventually operated by twitching a single facial muscle. The process was agonizingly slow. He could assemble sentences at a rate of only a few words per minute, while lightning-fast cosmic calculations occurred simultaneously in his head. This technology weaponized his intellect, providing the conduit that allowed a paralyzed man to remain the most influential scientific voice on the planet. Despite his fame, he maintained a rebellious, highly human spirit. He experienced zero gravity, drove his wheelchair recklessly, and loved making public, playful scientific bets with his colleagues. In 2004, he displayed profound scientific humility by publicly conceding his famous information paradox bet to physicist John Preskill. His willingness to admit he was wrong, acknowledging that quantum information might actually be preserved, proved that his ultimate allegiance was to the truth of the universe, not his own ego. Hawking passed away peacefully in 2018 at the age of 76. He had survived 55 years past a medical prognosis that originally gave him only 2. Stephen Hawking could not escape the limits of his body, but through mathematics and imagination, he reached the edges of space and time.